Good day everyone, I am Hannah Gainersal and for today I will be going to tackle about what are the challenges and interventions in the nature of sports education. But before that, we have here the learning objectives. So identify the different challenges in the nature of sports education, understand the importance of knowing the challenges in sports education, and lastly, to know the different solutions in the different challenges in sports education. So again, what is sports education? So when you say sports education, it is a curriculum and instruction model designing for delivery within physical education. Sports education teaches students teamwork and discipline. Now, what are the challenges and interventions in the nature of sports education? So first, we have the lack of sports facilities and equipment. So, in lack of sports facilities and equipment, it talks about the lack of sports space, the lack of hardware and software facilities, and the lack of sports equipment, and the lack of adequate sports infrastructure in in the country's educational sports facilities. So, in lack of sports facilities and equipment, it is one of the challenges in sports education because in school, how are you going to teach your students about sports if kanang lack of equipment unsaon mo for example unsaon mo pagtudlo sa imong students sa kanang softball o wala kay ipakita sa ilahan na equipment unsaon nimo pag-show sa ilahang unsaon pagduwa sa softball. So it is very important na in a particular school na sila complete equipment para matudloan nimo ang imong students o kanang about sa different sports, 'di ba? And then mahatagan nimo sila more knowledge about different sports. And concerning of the lack of sports facilities and equipment, it is suggested that the school be equipped with appropriate and quality sports facilities. So matong giingon na dapat sa school naa sila different equipment para sa kanang nga particular nga sports. So another example is kanang sa school nga kana lack of equipment. So kung naay students na ganahan og softball or baseball, so unsaon nila pag apil ana nga kanang sports kung ang school is walay kanang equipment, wala enough equipment para ana nga sports. So unsaon pag-develop sa skills or pag-improve ana nga kanang pag-improve sa kana nga students sa iyahang sports ang school pa lang daan is wala nay equipment. So it is very important na ang school is naa sila kanang sakto nga equipment para sa kanang sports ug unsa may naa sa ilahang sports ara na school available. So next is educational weakness. So the weakness of education includes poor content, lack of technology, lack of physical education concept in books, lack of common understanding of the goals of physical education, low physical literacy of students age 8 to 12. So in educational weakness, so ang ari is mura bitog as teacher kita i-guide nato ang students and i-teach nato ang students na kanang physical education or sports education is very important. Like for example, sa kanang mga bata nga kanang more on gadgets, more on sedentary behavior, like magsigara sila phone, kanang maglingkod na sila, magsigara gadget. So, atong tudloan atong students na sports education is also important para ma-develop ilahang skills na sila mag-gain na more knowledge about sport. So, in educational weakness, it is very important to select learning activities that can be adapted to the needs, interest, information, and current experiences of the students and provide them the opportunity to practice physical education lesson. So, based on educational weakness, it is suggested to look at physical education and sports activities as an important course and also as a factor for the development and reduction of physical and mental illness in society. So next, we have here individual factors. So it includes motivational barriers, physical psychological barriers, low intrinsic interest of some children in physical activity, and less time spending of families on physical activity. So in um, Individual factors is also one of the challenges in sports education because if low ka og motivation, so how are you going to participate in that particular sports kung low ka og motivation, like wala kay self-confidence. So as a future educator, it is, or as a teacher, it is very important na i-guide nimo ang students nimo, and it tuluan nimo sila na sports is very important, and then i-motivate nimo sila na mag-participate ana nga sports. Like for example, na students na kaybaw sila ana nga sports but then dili sila confident na i-show ilahang talent ana nga sports. So ikaw imo i-guide imong students, and then imo silang i-motivate, di ba? And then law of interest, so moto ka ng nakay maghimo ka og kanang nakay himuon na para magka interest imuhang students ana nga sports, di ba? Imuhang strategy as a teacher. Next is lack of financial resources. So it embraces economic shortcomings, lack of allocation of specific funds, and financial barriers. So it is also one of the challenges in sports education, kaning lack of financial resources. So sa katulad for example sa equipment, so kung saan man pag palit og mga bag-ong equipment sa kanang nga sports o kanang lack of financial resources, so walay kanang money ana unsaon nila pagbay. So due to the lack of financial resources, it is recommended to prevent the uncontrolled expansion of school sports, especially those not applicable in school or unsafe concerning students' health. So in sports education, kanang ang imuharang dili na ka kanang mag-expand pa na different sports na kanang bitong kuan na dili na siya safe sa kanang mga bata. So ang imong sports ra kunya sa imong school, so kana ra mga safe, mga volleyball, mga inana ra mga basketball, so dili siya kaayo mga kuan, di ba? So mga ang imong kuan sa school is kana ra mga safe na mga sports education na ma-improve ang skills o ang kuan sa students, di ba? Sa sports is kuan ang teamwork, sportsmanship sa students. So sa sports education, it's very important na magkuan lang ka sa mga sports na mga important sports para dili lack of financial resources. Now, lastly, we have here the human resources weakness. So, it includes low teacher job commitment, lack of human resources, lack of specialized trainers, and scientific weakness sports teachers. So, human resource weakness is also one of the challenges in sports education because in school, if walay teacher na kind of more knowledgeable or highly educated and well-informed sports instructor, unsaon man pagka-learn sa students or unsaon man pagkahibaw sa students about sports. For example, ang students and then ang ilahang teacher sa PE, physical education, is English major teacher, di ba? Murag layo na siya. So, unsaon man pagtudlo sa teacher sa mga students about sports education, di ba? Labi wala siya knowledge or background about sports, wala siya ka duwag mga sports, wala siya ka impel og mga sports, di ba? So unsaon man pag tudlo sa English major teacher sa iyahang mga students. So it is very important that human resources problem plays a very chief role in sports education. That is, and sports education, it is very important to hire a highly educated and well-informed sports instructor in sports education settings. So therefore, paying attention to the basic needs of sports teachers and coaches who strive for the development of sports in educational fields is one of the most important points should be considered and planned for. So for my conclusion and implication, so in conclusion, there are different challenges in sports education, and it is very important for us to know the different challenges in sports education in order for us to be prepared in finding solutions and to overcome this kind of challenges. So as we all know, sports education is one of the best tools of fashion motivational forces with respect to sports, so which leads to desirable results in sports activities. So introducing sports in the education curriculum not only gives the students exposure to a wide variety of sports but also promotes their physical and mental well-being. So therefore, it is important to know what are the things we need to do to solve the challenges in order for us to teach sports education effectively. So for by implication, as a BPED students, it is important to value sports education because it teaches us in different ways. Sports brings discipline in life. It certainly teaches the values of dedication and patience. And lastly, sports also teach people how to handle failure. So these are my evaluation and my reference. And that would be all. Thank you for listening.